Welcome back, everybody. Interesting time to be alive. You guys might see more videos from me than usual. I figured if there's anything you're doing at this time of year right now, it's probably watching YouTube. So I wanted to go over kickflips today. I made a couple kickflip videos already. I just wanted to go over the main problems that people have with kickflip because I get a lot of comments about these same things over and over. I'm gonna go over a few concepts, a few problems with kickflips that it seems a lot of people are having, and how to really address those and fix those. There's nothing really wrong with your kickflip. I'm not saying your way of doing a kickflip is wrong, but if you don't feel good about it, or if it's frustrating, or you're having a problem landing it, then this is how you fix those issues. So number one, just flicking the board away from you or hitting your shins, whatever ends up happening when you flick out, it just doesn't complete the kickflip. And shinners are one of the worst things that can happen to you skating. And part of it is due to this, when you drag your foot up the board and the board just seems to fly away, or your shin gets in the way of that, of course. The main reason why this happens is because you're getting too much friction when you're flicking. So I like to call it the friction theory, and it comes into play anytime you're doing any sort of kickflip or heel flip variation, especially with the kickflip here. So when you start sliding your front foot up the board on a kickflip, there's a lot of different ways that you can successfully do a kickflip, and depending on where you end up sliding your foot or where it's positioned originally, it can definitely change the trajectory of that kickflip. Let's say you like to have your foot on the board quite a bit, and you end up sliding directly up front. You're going to catch a lot of grip tape on the way up front, and it could be a good thing or a bad thing. Let's say you have worn out shoes and a board that you've been skating for a month or two already. You can probably afford that because things will be worn down. There won't be as much grip there, and you can just slide off the front of the board pretty easy. But if you have some fresh new grip tape or new shoes, that's going to be a struggle. So this changes, this changes my kickflip, on a monthly basis. When I switch out a board or something, I might have to adjust it a little bit and just wait for to break in the board that I'm skating, and I can get used to it again. But this happens quite often, and if you flip off the front too much, directly off the front, you can end up dragging the board along with you, and it'll fly away from you. It won't finish the kickflip. It'll get caught in your shins, which is very painful, and that's because you're simply getting too much friction. So what you can do to get rid of that is kick out more diagonally, so you don't catch as much as the grip tape. Obviously, you don't have to kick completely out to the side or down. I would just say try to get less of that grip tape when you're flicking your kickflips, and that's going to give you less friction and allow you to get more of an actual flip. And of course, there's the opposite to that, where your kickflip is rocketed because you're not getting enough friction. So it goes both ways, but I like to call it the friction theory, and it plays a part in every single time you do a kickflip. So it's just something to keep in mind. Be wary of that and just play around with it, flip more diagonally or flip off to the side. See what happens with it. Every now and then I play with my flip tricks, and I try different things, and I set up differently, and I see what happens. And I think that's important for every skateboarder to take into account. Just really mess around. Even if something feels uncomfortable at first, just try it and see what happens. Number two here is not putting your foot back on the board. This is frustrating to even talk about because it seems like the answer is hidden in plain sight. Like it's so obvious. It's crazy that it sounds crazy for me to even say it, but there's really no other way to say it other than to just put your foot back on. Some people would say, well, that's not so easy. And I can get where you're coming from because it's habitual. So if you're so used to practicing a kickflip and you're not used to actually trying to land it, and you're trying it in the grass and you're trying to flip it over and over and over again, and you're keeping that back foot on it, you have the front foot off to the side and you just, place it in the grass every single time, you're developing a habit to not put your foot on the board. And that's going to hurt you in the long run if you just can't get rid of that habit. So whatever it takes to really get you back into the habit of realizing, okay, I'm not here to flip a kickflip, I'm here to actually do a kickflip. So I would recommend just, removing yourself from the grass situation if that's something you're doing, adding a little bit more speed, and maybe just, putting the pressure on yourself mentally to realize, okay, I'm here to give it my all, or to really commit to it, instead of just, fling it away and see what happens with it. We're moving on here. So I think that's what really helps when it comes to keeping your feet on the board. Now, it sounds vague. It doesn't seem like there's some magical step to get rid of this syndrome, but there really isn't, in my opinion, other than really building the habit of just realizing you're not here to play with it anymore. You're really trying to give it your all. So the last topic I wanted to cover was catching a kickflip. I don't know how long it took me to catch my kickflips, but I know that it definitely wasn't, my first 100 kickflips were definitely not caught. They were just, they were floppy, they were all over the place, and I was just happy to land back on the board. And that's okay, It's not always going to be like that from the get-go. That's something that happens over time when you get more comfortable with your kickflips. When you get comfortable with doing them higher, your flip is more fluid, it's fast. You're getting that right amount of friction when you're flipping it. You're committed all the time. That fast flip and that good height just really creates the situation to catch a kickflip. It just comes back around, and it happens naturally. It's just something that happens over time as you get more comfortable with it. So don't feel discouraged if you're not catching your kickflip. It's not something that is going to happen overnight. It's just a side effect of doing everything else correctly. At least that's how I see it, and I believe I came into it. So I just wanted to go over those three major tips. I feel like the first two are something to really focus on. And the third just sort of comes after you've mastered those other two and you've really begun to get comfortable with your kickflips. So hopefully that was an informative vid for you guys. As I said, I hope to be making more videos than usual, given the world situation right now. But I'm taking advantage of it, and I hope to skate more. And send me your suggestions below in the comments, as always. See you guys soon.